Hi everyone, I'm here today at the headquarters of Aria Property Group, Queensland's #1 property developer. And I'm sitting down with Tim Forrester, the founder, who's going to take us through the evolution of what they do when it comes to crafting beautiful residences. They are #1 property developer in Queensland, if not Australia, and you're going to see what they've created over the last 2 decades and how they've got to this point, while giving us a sneak peek of the next evolution of what they're doing in vertical living with the cliff in Kangaroo Point. Let's go speak to Tim.
G'day, Owen.
Hey Tim, good to see you, mate.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, mate, this is pretty amazing what we've got here. We're pretty excited with the Aria story and what you've done over the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
But today we're at the precipice, I think, of a new era for Aria. So, mate, I'd love you to tell us all about the cliff here in Kangaroo Point.
Yeah, no, look, it's a really exciting project, and just wrapped to be working, obviously, with R&W and the team. This is probably our 15th, 20th project together. We've obviously worked over the last 15 years now. I think you've been on the journey with every single Aria project. So it's great to have the whole R&W team in the network here. But before we do, there's probably a couple of changes we've had, Owen, just with the Aria difference, which we talk a lot about as well. Just what you've always known, the Aria difference with the iconic architecture and our rooftop club, sustainability, retail and public realm, and Aria living. But probably the big thing we've got now is Riviere Constructions, which is our internal construction arm. So we now are truly a start to finish development company, cradle to grave, from when your clients buy off the plan right through to 5, 10, 15, 20 years after they're finished. We'll manage that entire process, including the resale for them downstream as well.
Now, that's an amazing feat, Tim. Obviously, we were talking sort of, 10, 20 years ago, you didn't have all of this.
Yeah.
Now, how many team members have you got within the business?
Oh, look, it's up to about 90 staff now.
Wow.
So probably 30 in our building management, 30 in our development, and 30 in our construction business.
So there's circa 100 people who are looking after the creation of these amazing, iconic pieces of real estate.
Yeah.
And they're all dedicated, solely directed on the Aria vision.
Exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the details of them. I know there's Aria Living and some of the other projects here, but we want to know what goes in, not only at the start, but also at completion.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, and we've got a little board that we'll talk through, which is about building the legacy, but it really starts with our design, development, architecture, interiors, and then it rolls through to Riviere Constructions, building these buildings. Then, of course, Aria Living comes in and actually manages your investment for you, and that ensures the integrity is upheld over the next 10 to 20 years. And then if people go to resell, Aria resales will then look after those sales downstream. We also have the fully incubated retail use as well. So we partner with the best restaurateurs and we keep ownership of all of those retails as well.
That's great.
So it really is a holistic formula.
So, I mean, looking here, there's some fond memories of some buildings we've worked together on.
A lot of projects together.
Yeah. And I think, just the track record, 33 completed buildings, across Australia. I mean, we work with a number of developers, but I think if I look at the numbers, I don't know if anyone has a track record like you guys. Tell me what it takes to sort of get to this point.
Look, I think it all comes back to our original vision, which is obviously to create buildings that we're going to be really, really proud of. We have no desire to be the biggest developer, to do the most apartment projects. You know that. I mean, even Cliff, this has been 4 years in the making, this project. We've worked on it. We're happy to be really patient. And when we do buildings, we want to be, as the text says up the top, we want to be proud of these buildings, not just when they're finished, but in 10, 20, 30, 40 years time after. So we prefer to do, if anything, a few less projects, but make sure the legacy of those projects is really upheld. Yeah. And that's why we retain so much in every building. I don't think there's a developer in Australia that every project retains the retail, the management rights, and 2 to 3 floors in every project. It's a really unique ecosystem.
And I think that's where you are such a testament to the quality, because you retain so much. So when we look at this and I love this, obviously the render versus reality, because I'm walking through an Aria building probably once a week.
Yes.
And I always have these flashbacks of when I first get the renders sent to me. And I know you always send me a little, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
And it's amazing that, 4 years after, 3 years after, you actually deliver on what you say. So tell me what it takes to...
Oh, well, like I take up a house. When we designed this and we had the big double height timber detail, I think everyone thought, I could never look that good. It's not going to be that good.
Yeah.
And as you know, with a lot of projects, that's what ends up happening, unfortunately. But with Aria, it's something we pride ourselves on really heavily, where we go, that's what the render was, but the reality actually looks as good, if not better, than what the render looks like. And we've consistently done that, even at Riviere, with all of the face bricks and the breeze blocks and the timber sophites, even with our builder that we had to step in and finish that one on, we still delivered the integrity that we promised you that we'd deliver. Trellis is the same, the standard's the same, they're all the same, every one of our projects. So when you see these renders that you're about to see at Cliff, I know the initial inclination will be, well, it can't look that good, Owen.
Yeah.
But you've got my word, it will. And we've got a few surprises up our sleeve. So in theory, it'll actually look a little bit better than what we're originally selling.
Well, I'm pretty excited to see what we've got here at Cliff today. But before we get there, I mean, you talk about legacy quite a bit, but your ecosystem of your business, it just covers all facets. Like, are you missing anything in property, you feel?
There's actually not. There's not one part of the ecosystem now, because we felt historically, if we didn't control it, we had the potential to be let down by a third-party supplier. Whereas here, everything from site selection through our design, obviously our marketing, our sales, our buyer experiences, right through to completion and construction, into Aria Living, into our concierge, through the apartment leasing, the little things like the apples and the umbrellas and the sommelier nights and all those little 1%ers, the defecting, and then right through to when you sell your apartment on the back end. So this can be, I think this part of the journey is probably anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And then this part of the journey, depending on how long people hold their apartment for, we would always recommend holding for at least 10 years. That's where you really ride out the cycles and you get the maximum capital growth at least. But that can be a 20-year life cycle for people.
Yeah.
And we've got so many clients of yours that actually have been on this journey now for the last 10 or 15 years. So it's pretty cool to see it come to fruition.
Yeah. And look, walking through them, I was literally yesterday walking through an Aria building, which is 3, 4, 5 years old. And it is still you're like, is this brand new? You think it was completed 2, 3 months ago. It looks phenomenal. And that commitment to ongoing quality is something truly special. And I think for sort of clients, that's where they're always sort of seeing that value that they're achieving. And, we can talk about some of the resales and the rentals a bit later, which are pretty amazing for clients. I know they're very happy. But before we get there, let's hear a little bit more about Cliff.
Okay, so this sort of part opens up to Cliff a little bit.
Wow.
And, I think when you see where this building is located, we know how emotional this view is. And we experienced this, Owen, when we did Oxley and Stirling with you and we did St. Julian with you. We were just talking earlier before we came on camera. It was like an absolute frenzy.
Yeah.
People were all over it to try and get an apartment in there. And we know how emotional this is when people walk up into Air Force One at Oxley and Stirling and they see this incredible double reach of the river view, where you have the botanical gardens and then you've got the city just sort of sitting in behind the gardens. It really is the best view that you could ever get in Brisbane. To get double reach of the river, gardens and city. As you know, a lot of the times we'll get one of those three. Every now and again you might get two, but we've never really had 3 of those 3 other than with Oxley and Stirling. And this site is actually even a little bit better because it's actually positioned right on the point of the gardens and the city. So it really gets and opens up that double reach as opposed to just the South Bank reach. So mate, it's a special piece of real estate. It's a northern aspect as well. And it's going to be such an iconic building. And I can hand on heart say, Owen, we will never, ever, ever have a project with guaranteed views at this level again as a company. We just won't have it. So this is really the last opportunity to get set with these sort of views leading into these Brisbane 2032 Olympics.
I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. I remember Oxley and Stirling views were absolute blown people away. But Oxley and Sterling was only 14, 15 levels.
15. So Oxley, the rooftop of Oxley and Sterling comes to about there.
And so you literally nearly double that now.
30 stories.
And I think everything above there, like the higher you get, it just gets better and better and better, that view, which is so special.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, look, the architecture as well. I can see some great undulation you've got here, the green spine of the building.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your philosophy?
Well, I really want to bring you around. I'll show you this because the whole inspiration on this particular building was the Kangaroo Point Cliffs. So when you start to have a look and you come through, these are the iconic Kangaroo Point Cliffs that wrap around through here. And the building really rises out of those Kangaroo Point Cliffs.
Yep.
So it'll be extremely iconic. You can see that the building's set up. I mean, that's the wellness club up there on level 8. So the apartments don't really start until level 9 from an R&W point of view. Yeah. And the views are just panoramic from that level as well. And then it rises up out of there. But the whole facade is actually stepping and moving. So whether it's our lobby, whether it's the building, whether it's the rooftop, the whole facade mirrors the undulation of a cliff.
Yeah.
So it's all been inspired by this jagged edge of the cliff and the movement of the cliff. And what that also does is, Owen, it opens up the views. So as you can see from, technically the side, all these ones look straight back down the river as well. So a little bit like what we did with Oxley and Sterling back in the days, where we look at, well, what's the view when you're sitting on your couch and how do we improve that? We step the facade out.
Yep.
So the views open up more. So we've played a lot of those little 1%.
So really many units just get so much added to them by the architecture that you created in there. And I think the building, to me, like I feel like when it's done in sort of 3-4 years' time, you're actually going to look at it and go, well, has this been there forever? It's like it's meant to be there in a sense. And I look at this street, and you and I were discussing some, beautiful homes and great streets within sort of Brisbane and southeast Queensland. And I probably have to say, River Terrace is, if not, top 3, one of the best street in Brisbane or southeast Queensland.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, if you think any tourist that ever visits Brisbane, the number one spot they go to get a photo is right there. They stand right there on the cliff and they get a photo with the double reach of the river and the city behind them. That is where they stand. If you put a pin where the absolute best location in Brisbane would be from a view point of view, you would put a pin right here on the bend of the double reach of the river. And that's why all the tourist buses and everyone comes right there. And these homes, again, like these are some really well-known Brisbane families. I mean, some of these owners are in it for 20, 30 million. I know these 2 heritage refurbs, the gentleman and his wife there, they're into that for, probably closer to 45 million. Yeah. So, you've got some pretty high-end neighbours and some pretty high-end homes across the road from where you'll be living in the Cliff building. Yeah. I think it's arguably probably the most, highest priced street in Brisbane. It's only a small street, Leopard Street, but it's very high average home price.
And I think you're right in that, this area is so amazing already. Everyone who visits Brisbane, like that's the shot. That's how, if you Google Brisbane, that's the view that comes up around the world.
Absolutely.
But that's going to even transform and get better leading into the 2032 Olympics.
Yeah,
I mean, looking at this, I get pretty excited sort of seeing what's going to change.
Well, I think this is the big thing. You can see where Cliff's located. And as I said, that pin that would drop here where you get that double reach of the river with the city and everything. But what's happening is you've got the Crossrail Rail project here. This is a $16, $17 billion project. And it's pretty much an express train that goes from here across the road straight into Albert Street in the CBD, and it takes 2 or 3 minutes to get there. Yeah. So again, it's as good as living in the city. So from a rental point of view, Owen, you've got a catchment of every single city worker that can rent your apartment if you're an investor.
Or just, you and I both know, I've got friends who work in the city. No one has a car space.
Exactly.
So where do they all want to live?
Exactly.
Now, right here, so they can go straight in.
And then this is the new proposed Brisbane Live stadium. So when you look at Brisbane Live, this is going from Boondall and it's moving inner city. And this is where, Taylor Swift will play and Bruce Springsteen will play and all of these, Zach Bryan, all of those celebrities will play in here. And that'll be a pretty incredible piece of infrastructure. And then you've got the Gabba that's going to get demolished. And they're saying it'll be no real net loss of green space. So yes, there'll be towers around it, but they will have this sort of beautiful open air and parkland space. And then we've got the new Mark Lane restaurant precinct that will run parallel to that. So it's unfathomable to think over the next 5 to 7 years, all 5 of those things are going to happen either by completion or very shortly after completion of Cliff.
Yeah.
So it's good now, but it's just going to keep getting better and better and better.
Well, I think we talk about that decade worth of change and that influence that's going to happen. And so that 10-year life cycle of, say, having that Aria property within the investment portfolio, it's just going to really just multiply, that area and the demand for it probably 5-10-fold over that period.
So this is Mark Lane. We've obviously pioneered laneway developments in Brisbane. This is actually our 4th laneway that we will be creating. We created Eden Lane, which I know you were involved in at Wollongabba. We created Ulster Lane in the city, which is where Hermes is. We've created Fish Lane, which obviously everyone's really familiar of and has become a bit of a Brisbane destination. This will be our 4th laneway we're going to create, which is called Mark Lane in Kangaroo Point. So we're going to go in and we'll have our beautiful signage and Duratherm gardens, catenary lighting, and we're really going to target a signature Italian restaurant in here. So we want this to be a restaurant. This will be a little bar off to the side. So again, when you think about Cliff and the location, all of a sudden you don't need to walk down to South Bank or over to Logan Road or whatever to get a great meal. It'll be at the base of your building. So exactly what we did back when we did Austin with Julius. Everyone thought we were crazy. Everyone thought it would never happen. And obviously history shows it's become one of the best laneways in Brisbane. That's what we're going to be doing with Mark Lane as well.
Yeah. I remember clear as day, Austin, when it launched, I remember walking down there with my wife and she was probably not wanting to walk down there late at night. Now it's the only place she wants to go late at night. It is actually the hottest destination in Brisbane. And if you guys are starting that here, give it time. This is going to be the next hottest destination.
Exactly.
But tell me more about this, because I think we've talked so much about what Aria does externally. Let's go internally.
So I think, we've really been sort of the leaders in health and wellness over the last 10 years. And if you can imagine, this is like having the absolute best sort of 6-star day spa or wellness club in the comfort of your own home. So this is our level 8 wellness club, and you can start to see, Owen, how beautiful the views are already, even from level 8, looking back. So this is on top of the car park, this level, but you're already getting those incredible views. So, you'll have your hot and cold recovery areas, your heated tepidarian bar beds, your infrared saunas, your Hammam steam rooms, even little ice machines to put shaved ice on you. This is just a little sample of what's in the day spa and health and wellness, but we know longevity and wellness is such a big part of living right now. And we really are the sort of leaders in this space in the building. And then same coming into your gym area. It's more than just a gym. It's not just some techno gym equipment and a couple of bench press. You've got things like the sleds, and you've got the monkey bars to hang on to. And I've actually consulted with Lockie Neal and the Brisbane Lions, and we're really wanting to make this, whether you're the professional athlete, whether you're a weekend warrior, whether you just like to stay in shape, we've really designed the little 1%ers in these areas to be of that real leading kind of sport and recreation facilities.
It looks amazing, but Tim, I'm just trying to work out, why have you got a basketball court on the floor here? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so this is pretty unique because you'll have your gym here and then a garden outside, and then there'll be some amphitheatre seating that steps down. And come with me, you'll get a little idea for what that is. So that will then step down, and you'll actually come into this incredible basketball court within the building. So again, these are all things that have never really been done before anywhere in the world. I know that LeBron James has this in his home. It's probably worth 70 or 80 million, but it's not really something you would ever see in an apartment building. And what we're so excited about is this is a bit of a next-gen floor. So it's actually a glass floor, and it has the ability to have pre-programmed 5 or 6 different settings. So it's shown as basketball at the moment, but with a hit of the button, the lines change and it goes to pickleball. Or the lines change and it goes to futsal. Or the lines change and it can be the movie theatre. Whatever use you want it to be, it can be a multi-purpose sort of next-gen basketball court.
Not to mention with one of the best views in Brisbane, might I say.
It's pretty special. And this is a little sort of courtside club here.
Yeah.
So again, you can come in with your friends, have a couple of drinks, shoot some hoops. You can start to understand the lifestyle. But we have so many families in here. My son's obsessed with futsal and soccer. So again, I can hit the button, change it to that, put the goals out, and I can play futsal with my son.
Wow.
My other son loves, pickleball and those sort of sports and paddle. I can set up the net and I can play pickleball or paddle with my son. So again, for families, Owen, and this is what we're trying to do, is target not just, bachelors or bachelorettes or young professionals or downsizers, or we want to hit every single part of the ecosystem in these Aria buildings. And that's what these sort of courts
are. And I know for a lot of us with young families, you want to let them play in the backyard and everything like that. And in apartment buildings, that hasn't been done super well. But I love this because, you know what? It's secure. It is safe. Yeah. You feel they can go and play and look after each other. And they can invite their friends over. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, we've got 4 little kids. Mackenzie can be doing a workout upstairs, looking in through the amphitheatre court, and the kids can be playing basketball down there. 4 kids. I mean, it's
absolutely amazing.
And again, this is where all of our buildings have been, and we're really proud to have been awarded Best Developer in Australia 6 out of the last 8 years. But this building's going to a whole nother level again.
And then, look, I was looking at this one before, and typically when you see apartments like this on the corner, there's a big column in the middle. I'm like, this is just, the column's
it's not photoshopped out. The columns sit back here and the other column sits back over there. Okay. So it opens up the whole corner.
Wow.
So again, I think Aria's been so known. We pioneered rooftop clubs 15 years ago, and it's great now that all developers are sort of copying that concept, and it's improving and lifting the bar, I think, for all developments in Australia, which is great. But where we want to go now is really taking our apartments and the livability of these apartments to a whole new level. So if you can imagine, all this glazing pulls right back. You've got your main balcony over here, but it all pulls back, and then over here it all pulls back. So we run this little 30, 40 centimetre edge on the outside, but it enables you to pull the whole apartment open, and you can be inside and outside at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's blurring the lines between where inside starts and outside finishes and vice versa. Yeah. It's going to change the game, Owen.
That's amazing. And so you've done
genuine breathability of apartments.
Yeah. So you've done that as obviously amazing on the internals. And then I was just taking in and looking at this one as the master bedroom, where that is with, you've got, the bed head floating and out there as well. That is just such a beautiful vista.
Well, again, mate, normally you're just in a glass box, and every apartment is a glass box historically.
Yeah.
But this, all of a sudden, you're in your bedroom, that glazing suite pulls the whole way back. And because we run this little balcony edge along here, this whole glazing suite pulls back to here. And all of a sudden, you'd be laying in your bed and you're outside.
Yeah.
But you're inside.
Yeah, I love that.
That is the Queenslander in the sky. That is how you want to live in Queensland. We're the subtropical capital of Australia. You couldn't do this in Melbourne. It wouldn't work and make sense in Melbourne. But in Brisbane, the Queenslander is called the Queenslander for a reason, because it's a raised home with wraparound balconies where you get natural ventilation east to west and north to south. So it really is going to change the game. Yes, the amenities are amazing. We haven't even got to the Clifftop Club yet. We haven't even got to the Cliffhanger Club or to the Cliffside Lobby, but the apartments on this one are very, very special.
Well, look, we're all waiting with bated breath. Let's actually go through and show everyone what we're talking about with the Clifftop Club. But before we get there, I think you've got a bit of a display to show us through here.
Yeah, come on through.
Come on, guys.
So if you can imagine, Owen, the corridors will be breathing because we're naturally ventilating the corridors, and then every apartment gets 2 front doors. So you get your normal, fire door.
Yep.
Then you also get a breathable front door, like we did at Riviera and we did at Trellis.
So that breathable's Queensland.
Exactly. So this can actually be a breathable front door, and you can actually step in, and you're getting this incredible cross-flow ventilation through all of the apartment.
This is stunning. And so where we're standing in now, this is your typical 4-bedroom style apartment?
Yeah, one of the O3 apartments.
Yeah.
And I think this just, Owen, touches on, unfortunately, with the structure, we weren't able to open the whole thing up. You can start to see here how this small little balcony edge wraps around the entire thing. So in the actual apartment, This glazing suite pulls the whole way back, to kind of here. And then over here, that all pulls back over there as well.
Yeah.
So yes, you have your normal balcony where you can have your 6, 8, 10-seater dining table on, but the whole apartment is breathing. So when you're having breakfast at the breakfast bar, you're inside and outside. If you're having dinner and a dinner party, you can be inside or outside.
Yeah.
If you're watching sports, like a day like today, you can be inside and outside at the same time. It really, really is. It's like having Juliet balconies that wrap around your entire apartment.
Stunning. I think, as an entertainer style apartment, like you can't ask for anything more. With those views, having that open space like that, there's just
Pretty
nothing
special.
you can compare it to, really.
It really is. And then the kitchen as well. I mean, this is the standard kitchen for the 03 type apartment.
What is the length of this bench top?
So this is actually like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 4.2 meters long. So again, this is better than the kitchen I have in my own home.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous. And again, with a 3-bedroom, it'll be slightly smaller, and 2-bedroom, a little bit smaller again.
Yeah.
But all of the finishes are pretty similar in terms of the whisper air, sort of induction. You've got your concealed fridges as well.
Yep.
And every single apartment Owen actually gets VZUG appliances, which are the Swiss-based appliances.
Yep.
They actually come with a 10-year warranty.
Wow.
So all the other brands we've used historically have a 2 or 3 year warranty.
Yep.
VZUG have a 10-year warranty, and they're pretty special from an appliance point of view.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? And I know the Aria is special all the time. Have we got a butler's pantry, or what have we got in here?
There's a little pantry as well.
Yeah.
And all apartments sort of have a level of pantry sizes. So they're really geared up with the owner-occupier in mind.
Yeah.
Owen. So, they're the sort of apartments, if you're an investor buying now, when someone walks through here, they're going to fall in love with it and want to have this from an owner-occupier point of view.
This is just absolutely stunning. You couldn't want more within your typical home that you're living in, let alone an apartment.
Yeah.
So this is so special. Well, I think sort of, we've seen all the finer details internally here. Mate, I want to see the Clifftop Club.
Welcome everyone. We're now standing in the Cliff Wine Bar, and we're about to just go through a little bit more about the project in a bit more detail. Before we do though, I just always like to start with why at Aria we do what we do. And we spoke about it outside, but everything we do is about the legacy we leave. It's all about being proud of these projects and ensuring that these buildings get better and better and better over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Obviously, we've been incredibly proud of our history. I went through this with Owen outside, but that's been our story. We've delivered over 3,000 apartments, and we've worked with Owen and the team for a long, long time now. When I think about the Aria history, this is something we're really proud of. I mean, every year you're up against a magnitude of projects all around Australia, some of the best developments in Australia. There's 7 or 8 state winners, and there's only 1 national winner. And to win that 6 out of the last 8 years is something that we're incredibly proud of. As most of you are aware, Upper House obviously won this year in 2025. So that's something we're really, really humbled by and pretty grateful to receive those accolades from our industry peers. The Rendiverse reality we spoke about outside, it's just a case of saying that we'll always deliver on what we represent to you, that we say we're going to deliver on. In terms of this ecosystem, I know we touched on that a little bit as we walked around with Owen, but I think this just shows how it's a curated experience now from start to finish, from cradle to grave. From the very first moment that we start designing these buildings, we've got 5 interior designers in-house, we've got a couple of architects in-house. We then work with external architecture firms, but we curate that whole design and development experience. Then we move into the development and the construction, and we now build all these projects ourselves through Riviere Constructions. Once the buildings are finished, we come down here and we actually manage all these projects through Aria Living. And then when you go to sell your apartment 10, 20 years after it's finished, we manage all that through our resale division. And of course, we curate the retail that sits at the ground floor of your building. And we curate that because that is your front door to your apartment. So in terms of Riviere, this is something that I'm really proud of this business. We called it Riviere Constructions because it was born out of adversity. I know that a lot of clients that are watching this today actually will own apartments in Riviere. This was a project we did at Kangaroo Point, and unfortunately we had our builder go bankrupt at about level 2 or 3 of this project. We made the really tough call to step in. We only lost 5 or 6 days of work. We stepped in, we paid everyone twice, we fixed up people's retentions, and we continued to plough on through the construction of the development. It was something that cost us a fair bit of money to do. It was probably a $10 to $15 million problem for us as a developer. But we made the really tough decisions as well with Riviere Constructions to not retrade any of our buyers. In our contract, we had the ability, due to our builder going bankrupt, to be able to ask for more money for their apartments, to be able to recoup our losses, or to be able to even rescind the contracts and resell them at a higher price. And we made the tough decision to honour everyone's contract price. These are really serious decisions that we make. To put it in perspective, all these apartments had gone up anywhere from $300,000 to $1.2 million. So we are talking about a $60, $70, $80 million decision when we make that decision not to do that. But I think that's a real true reflection of our integrity and where we are from a brand point of view as well. And it's something I'm incredibly proud of, and that's why we kept the name Riviere Constructions. Since then, we've gone on, we're obviously building Casimir and Lucerne, and we'll be building Cliff as well. Obviously, Aria Living, we manage all of these buildings, as you're aware. We've got a few thousand apartments we manage now across 12 projects. And that's everything from gardens to cleaning to rentals to the little 1%ers we do. We touched on the outside, you know, the apples, the umbrellas, the little sommelier nights, all those little things that we do to improve the experience for you and your tenants and your clients in these projects. I think this has been one of the biggest parts of our business, the Aria resales business. As you can see, we've sold over 200 apartments. And what's really interesting is 135 or 58% of every apartment we sell or resell for you is off market. The other point I track pretty closely is that 69% of all sales, so nearly 3/4 of all sales, are a record price every time. So if the previous record in Upper House was 2.5, we're going for 2.6 or 2.8 or 2.85 or 2.9. 69% of all those 232 sales have been record prices. And we're the ones who are so equally incentivized for that to happen because we're the largest owner in these buildings. No other developer retains as much property in these buildings as we do. So we're heavily incentivized to continue to set records every single time when we sell these apartments. And then with our restaurants, you guys know about the Julius's and La Lune's and Messina Gelato. We curate this. We've got 139 retailers in our Aria portfolio, and we curate this ground floor. So as you're coming home and as you're actually entering your apartment, you've got this highly curated experience on the ground floor of your building. Look, I'm not going to touch on the Brisbane market too much because I know that Owen and Brandon and the R&W team will go through this in a bit more detail. But I think all of you know Australia is fortunately one of the fastest growing regions in the world as a percentage. And if you look here, Queensland is, as we know, undoubtedly the fastest growing region then in Australia. So it's a great time to be in Queensland and it's a great time to be in Brisbane. But what's been happening with that high growth, we've actually seen supply fall massively. So supply is down at about 1,000 to 1,500 apartments per annum. We need sort of 6,000 to 8,000 to be at a normal level. So we've got a time where we've got unprecedented growth with the lowest supply on history. And that's what is going to continue to put pressure on rents. It's going to keep putting pressure on values. And we think leading into these Brisbane 2032 Olympics, it's going to just continue to amplify this undersupply issue. The Olympics itself, I love this stat because the Lord Mayor talks about this all the time. He says at the moment, about 4% of the world's population knows about Brisbane. They know where Brisbane is, they've visited Brisbane, they're aware of Brisbane. After the Olympics, you can see here with the Paris Olympics, 5 billion people watched the Paris Olympics. 5 billion, that's 84% of the world's population watch the Paris Olympics. So we're going to go from currently 4% of the world's population knowing Brisbane to 84% of the world's population knowing where Brisbane is. They're going to be seeing Brisbane, 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 Brisbane. It has to have a positive impact on the global nature and the global investment into the Brisbane market. And you only have to look at these other cities. You look at Tokyo, Paris, Los Angeles, Brisbane. Which one is the odd one out of those 4 cities? All those other 3 cities are true global cities, and Brisbane will become the next global city. And we saw what happened with Sydney. I think this is a great chart going back to 1990 to out here, the early 2000s in Sydney. So Sydney, this is when the Olympics were announced in Sydney. Sydney's average home price was pretty similar with the other major cities. And Sydney had been growing at, what's it say there, 3.5% annual growth in this year before the Olympics were announced. From when the Olympics got announced in 1993, Sydney's growth increased to 9.34% average through this period when they were building it. Then the Olympics happened in 2000, as we know, regarded as one of the best Olympics the world's ever seen. And then the property market did another 10.3% annual growth from there. Again, we don't know the impact of the Brisbane Olympics, but all we know is having 4, 5, 6 billion eyeballs seeing Brisbane and seeing the beauty of Brisbane, from the Gold Coast to the Sunshine Coast to the Toowoomba Ranges to Moreton Island to Fish Lane to Mark Lane to all these little precincts. It can only have a positive impact on the global nature of Brisbane, and hopefully we'll see a similar result to what happened with that Sydney market. This is our vacancy rates. Look, we consistently sit, these are the yields that we had at settlement of these buildings. So we've really consistently had yields of 5 to 6% across all of our projects, and our vacancy rates always sort of sitting down at that 0%. Again, I know Owen and Brennan have got a lot of these resales, but I'll just touch on them quickly, because when we set our price list for our new projects like Cliff, we always look at what are the resale rate per metres of our existing projects. And we've always said to the team, that's how we base what we set our prices at for our new projects, is working off our older projects and the resales on those older projects. You can see the standard there, we're getting 26, 27,000 a metre. Trellis, we're getting 3.3. Again, some really happy clients. This gross in about an 18-month period. I know that their clients made 1.8 million, but the rate per metre is now at 24,000 a metre for our resales. Up at Upper House, 22,000 a metre, and even at Riviere, we're 21,000 a metre. So again, a lot of happy clients. So many of our clients have done really, really well that have backed Aria and got involved in these projects. In terms of the resales, I just wanted to highlight this because everyone knows that the market has moved. The Brisbane market has moved, but this is what we call our sort of Aria alpha, our differential between Aria and the buildings that are within the immediate precinct. Again, this is all public information through Price Finder. We don't mention the names of these other projects, but they're all within the same sort of street, same sort of views, finished a few years before us. And you can start to see at Riviere, if you bought a 3-bedroom in there for 1.25, it's now reselling for 2.4. The building next door, you might have paid 1.38, it's reselling for 1.68. So it's this delta that we talk about and the differential, which is really consistently 50, 60, 70% across all of our projects. When you look at Trellis, same sort of thing. I remember looking at this, there was a building in the immediate precinct and people were saying, units are 200-300 grand cheaper, should we buy that? Again, they did incredibly well. This has been amazing growth, 62% growth. The apartment's gone up 800,000, but you look at Trellis, the apartment went from 1.5 to 3.3 and went up 120%. So our sort of differential is 58% on that. And again, these are buildings that are located in that same view, same street, same everything. Upper House, the same. It's consistently the differential that you see is sitting at that 60, 70% differential. And that is what we call the Aria difference. And I think that's the heart and soul we put into all of these projects as well. So getting on to Cliff, Owen's given me a tight time frame. I'm trying to get through this as quick as I can. So hopefully I don't skip over too much. But look, I touched on it outside. It's just an irreplaceable view, guys. I mean, to be sitting right on the point of those gardens and to be getting the double reach with the city and the gardens in behind, it's pretty special. The building's going to rise up out of the cliff top, as we said, and it's sort of preserved by these heritage houses that the site actually overlooks. So it gives really good view certainty for all of our owners within this project. The location, we touched on this outside, but you imagine these 5 things. Imagine when, CrossFit Rails open in the next few years, when Brisbane Live gets built, when we have this new parkland experience, when you have this green boulevard, when you have Mark Lane. I mean, it's a location that's it's great now, and it's just going to keep getting better and better and better over the next 5 to 7 years. And of course, the views are absolutely to die for. Okay, when we get into the building, this is a really important thing to know. I know we've been known for the resident amenity. On this particular building, we've got our Mark Lane restaurant precinct down on the ground. We then have our cliffside lobby, which I'll talk through. On level 8, we have our wellness club. So instead of being up on the roof, we've brought the wellness club down to level 8. Then on level 30, we have our cliffhanger club. You're probably wondering what that is. I'll touch on that at the end. And then we have our signature Aria clifftop club on level 31. So we've got sort of 4 to 5 levels of amenity. This is before you even get to your apartment. We're not even on your apartment yet, which obviously sits in there as well. So I'll go through them quickly. Mark Lane, as we said, we're going to replicate Fish Lane. We want to create an amazing laneway dining precinct along Mark Lane, which is going to be transformative. The podium itself, this podium is like 21, 22 metres high. So you've got this beautiful sort of interlaid wall with greenery just nestled in. I think we pioneered these green walls 10 years ago, and they've been so successful. And this will be the largest vertical garden done anywhere in Australia, but it'll be nestled with this cliff-inspired wall. You can see how the building steps, the whole facade steps. And then as you start to come in, again, find me a lobby that looks anything like that anywhere in the world. It's all been inspired by the cliff. So this is this incredible cliff stone wall. You'll have your little coffee and tea stations, your concierge and Aria living, work from homes, libraries. And actually with this project, it's our first project we've worked with a pretty incredible 6-star hotel consultant. So you can actually start to see how, step down, nestled little sun lounge, library areas. So it's really got that 6-star Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons sort of feeling to all these spaces that it sits within. So on the ground, this is Mark Lane. This will be the bar. This will be the restaurant, kitchen, little porte cochere, stone drop-off area. And this starts to become your cliffside lobby with your little sunken areas. And it's going to be surrounded by this garden that wraps the whole way around you as well. So again, it's going to be a real experience, this space on the ground floor. You come up to your wellness club. We touched on some of these outside with Owen, but really, really world-leading health and wellness. So you really feel how these spaces are going to work, and I think you get a great appreciation for how great the city views are from the first level of the wellness club, which is sitting on top of the car park. The apartments then rise above that, and the views just get better and better and better. And I love this shot because you see how you can come down, you can sort of sit in your little courtside. You could sit up here on your amphitheatre, or you could be working out up here and overlooking this, but it's all nestled amongst that signature Aria green wall. So it's constantly got this connection to nature that we talk about. We're doing our Pilates. This is a great room, our cinema and listening lounge. Based on the success of the standard, we'll have a baby grand piano, we'll have a guitar. We've actually got a vintage record player and vintage records as well. It'll be more than just a room you go to and watch Netflix or footy nights or State of Origin or whatever it might be. It'll be much more of a multi-purpose room. And we've seen this at the standard. We've got so many kids that actually have piano lessons in that building. And so we're really making these rooms much more like a listening lounge. We've got our boardrooms, we've got our work from homes, we've got our massage treatment rooms, all the normal things that you've come to expect. So you start to see your work from homes through here, your gymnasium, coming down these amphitheatres into the court area. This is your meditation garden in through here, which then folds into your infrared saunas, your Haman steam rooms, your hot and cold recoveries, your tepidarian heated baths. This is an incredible experience down on level 8. We've deliberately removed it from our Clifftop Club to create a genuine health and wellness experience. Think of the best day spa you've ever been to. That's what this experience is going to be for you. When you start to look at the areas, the Wellness Club alone is 1,300 square metres. To put that into perspective, Upper House, which is a real signature Aria building, the total rec area and amenity area is 1,600 metres. So just this level alone is almost the same size as the total amenity at Upper House. And when you look at the whole amenity, it's 3,300 metres. So you come up to our Clifftop Club. We touched on that with Owen, just where it sits relative to Oxley and Stirling and St Julian. They were 15, 16-storey buildings. This is a 31-storey building. It will feel like you are on the top of the world up there. It's going to be a really special experience just being up here. So even our wine bar, this looks back towards the city, but you can see the work that the sort of hotel consultant's done where we've got more of a round bar and we've got then tiered seating areas and tiering down even to your love seat. So again, we've improved this significantly from where we were even at Upper House. Can you imagine that? The cliff-inspired wall, the sort of round bar. We have our monthly sommelier nights up here, complimentary coffees as well, newspapers delivered every morning, free Wi-Fi. It's probably better than any hotel bar you could go to anywhere in the world. Our private dining rooms. This is a really favourite of mine. These are these little sort of, there's 4 of them and they'll be our hot springs. So this was inspired by the Strawberry Park Hot Springs in Steamboat Springs, where my wife and I go with our kids every year. That's where Mackenzie's from. And these are all different depths, temperatures, minerals, but all sitting underneath the stars with the most sort of incredible aspect back to the city as well. Absolutely stunning. You can just imagine yourself being in there and being in these spaces. That shows it looking back into the residence lounge area. So yeah, you come to this area with the Clifftop Club, all of a sudden you've got 3,300 metres of amenity, which is just under 20 metres per apartment. So to put it into perspective, that's double the amenity of Upper House, but we have less apartments than Upper House. So Upper House is incredible. This is going to be a whole nother level again. We've tried to break it all down. You can read that in your own time, but there's a lot of Aria firsts that we've never done before that's going to make this project significantly more special. I'll flick through these pretty quickly because we went through the apartment outside, but just touching on, you can really see how all that pull-away glazing starts to work in all these apartments. You've seen the kitchen and the bathroom. Sustainability, the main thing here we want to talk about is the Queenslander in the sky. So what we're really working hard on is to open up these corridors and have this breathing, and then you get your front doors breathing as well. So the airflow is coming through your apartments. Then you've got your wraparound balconies everywhere. So the air is just constantly pushing around the whole apartment. So you start to see how the airflow moves, and it's really going to make these apartments so much more breathable and reduce the reliance on air conditioning as well in all these apartments. I won't go through all these because there's a fair bit of detail on them, but every apartment gets pretty amazing views. And the way we've configured the building with the stepping facade, it's really designed to open up those views and maximise those views. But you start to see here like how this glazing pulls right back to here, this pulls back, this pulls back, and this pulls back. You know, and you start to see the impact that has. Again, this is an internal unit, guys. This isn't a corner unit. This is an internal O2 type, but just incredible views. You get that amazing double reach. This is on about level 20, this view, so probably halfway up the building. Our hero one. And even these ones on the side, I mean, this is a 3-bed, 2-bath. These are sort of mirror reverse, the 04 and the 05, but again, all pulling away. Front door breathing, great airflow into this back bedroom. 3-bed, 2-bath. These are about 131 square metres. But you see how that works with the stepping of facade and the location of the site. It's almost a cross between where Riviere was and where Oxley and Stirling was, and you're right in the middle of those two. So these units are almost like the Riviere type views, and the 1, 2, and the 3 are like the Oxley and Stirling type views. When we say we price off our existing projects, I mean, you take like a 3-bed, 2-bath at Upper House, and you look at that apartment, it's 132 metres, and we sold this for 2.85 as a resale, 21,000 a metre. At Cliff, it's 131 metres, so exactly the same sort of size area. And the floor plan's going to feel significantly better with how all that glazing pulls away and how much wider it's going to be. That apartment will be the same sort of price, 2,829, as what our resales are in our older buildings. Probably one of my favourites. You look at how all this pulls back and back. An incredible 3-bed, 2-bath, powder room, everything you could sort of want for in an apartment. And again, you pick up more and more of the city the further you move back. So this is sort of that back corner unit, the type 6, but the views are just incredible looking back to the city as well. And same thing, like we look at this and we go, okay, well at Trellis, we've got resales at 3.3 million, 24,000 a metre, not just one, multiple resales at that price. At 24,000 a metre, it's 137 metres. You come over here and you look at an incredibly superior floor plan and building with a 2028-29 settlement. It's 161 metres, so it's 24 metres bigger, and it might be mid to high threes. So again, not paying much more for a unit that's 24 metres bigger with a 2029 settlement in a significantly better building. No other developer has this story where they can talk about the resales in our previous buildings and setting our price list based on what we're getting in these older Aria buildings. So 2-bed, comparing that, and I love this one. This is actually a 114 metre, 3-bed, 2-bath as well. These are priced in the low 2s. So again, some really, really good value here for people to get into a 3-bed, 2-bath at low 2 millions, looking back out towards the hinterland over there. So this just shows where we were at Oxley and Stirling, where we moved to at Upper House, and where we come to at Cliff. It's extensive, the level of amenity. And what that means, guys, is if you don't like paying a lot of tax, you get incredible depreciation. So you start to look at our apartments through here. I mean, normally a unit has $25,000, $30,000 depreciation. Because you own all the amenity, your depreciation's much more like 50, 60, 70, 80,000. Even the type 3 gets over $100,000 depreciation year one, which is just incredible. Before I finish, one more thing, and this has obviously been inspired by Apple and Steve Jobs and what he used to do with Apple. It was always about having one more thing. It was always one more thing that moved the dial. With the iPhone, it was an amazing phone, but it was also the best camera you'll ever have. And this is our one more thing, which is our Cliffhanger suite. So this is a room that's directly below the wine bar, and it's cantilevered out off the building. And it's this incredible suite that you can actually use and you can book out exactly like you do with our dining rooms and our theatre rooms. And it's got the absolute best views in Brisbane, in the best part of the building in Brisbane. So again, if you buy a 2-bedroom, this becomes your 3rd bedroom. If you buy a 3-bedroom, this can become your 4th bedroom. If you buy a 4-bedroom, this can become your 5th bedroom. And it'll all be booked out through the Aria Living app. There will be some amount of days you can use it per year, but if it's not being used, you can use it more than that. And we'll also use our Aria concierge service to deck it out as well. So there's a bed that sits here. There's obviously a bathroom, bathtub. It's about an 80-metre suite with the absolute knockout views looking straight back down the river towards the city. And this really came out of my parents. I mean, I'll never forget mum and dad saying, oh, we need a 5-bedroom apartment. And I was always like, why do you need that? He said, well, if all the kids are there at once, we'll need the 5th bedroom. And I'm like, Dad, that happens once a year or twice a year. That's why we do the cliffhanger suite. So you only need a 4-bed because this is your 5th bed, or you only need a 3-bed because this can be your 4th bed when you have friends or family, or even if it's your anniversary and your date night experience. You can book this out and you can have this incredible experience in the comfort of your own home. So that's all from me. We're going to be launching sort of late July, early August.